Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video, and in today's video, we're going to be going over the day one results for the Chicago Brawl presented by MinMax Games. I just ended up watching pretty much the whole day of coverage. They went 7 rounds today for their cut to top 8. I think it was like 120 players. I didn't do the exact math in my head, but it was a good sizable event. Definitely the first major event we've had since Outsiders release, or since even people have been testing with Outsiders. And yeah, we're going to get into it and just kind of talk about it and how the day one event went and then what the top 8 was and go from there. So if you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. Join the Discord down below if you want to be part of a really active Flesh and Blood community. And if you have been here for a while and you want to find another way to support, feel free to check out the Patreon. So this was the first event for the Outsiders meta or Outsiders set. It was a very interesting event because it's the day after Outsiders released. However, due to programs like Talishar, obviously Tabletop Simulator, Proxying, things of that nature, a lot of players were and pretty much confirmed are testing even well before this, several weeks before this. So people had a good idea of what decks they wanted to run, and you saw a lot of new heroes. MinMax did a really good job at showcasing a lot of the new heroes in their feature matches, along with like showing some heroes that were doing really well. I know round 1 we saw Riptide, we saw Lexi with some new cards, we saw Azalea with new cards, we saw Uziri on stream, a 5-0 Uziri that was doing really well, piloted by Sam Dando. We'll talk about him in a second. And then, just saw a bunch of the new heroes. No Arachne with the new cards, but a good majority. So looking into it on day 1, this was the meta breakdown. So Dromai was the most represented deck in the field at 15, then followed by Azalea at 14 and Lexi at 13. Those are the top 3 decks. In all honesty, I knew that Azalea was going to be more represented. I think the big question mark was how much more represented was Azalea going to be. I think that it was kind of like up in the air. Like everybody knew Azalea was better, but how many people would quite honestly be brave enough to like run her, especially in this first event? I wasn't expecting to see us being Azalea. I was expecting to see Azalea like maybe at the Pro Tour or maybe in like a later big event like a Calling, but I wasn't expecting like this Chicago Brawl for you to see 14 Azaleas. I was expecting her to be kind of where Katsu and Viscerai are at, like the 7 to 6 range, maybe like right below Oldheim at like 8 or 9 on a good day. Wasn't expecting her to be the second best most represented deck. 2 of the top 3 decks are Ranger. We talked about it on the channel. People keep saying I'm crazy. Ranger is going to be the most represented hero. It's going to continue to be the most represented hero for the foreseeable future, in my opinion. They're just too good. They really don't have a bad matchup anymore. The only bad matchup can be Dromai, and even that matchup has gotten better, which we'll talk about here in a second, and so on and so forth. So Ice, Dromai, and Azalea Lexi. I guess the other surprise for me is I was expecting to see a couple more Bravos. I think Bravo is a good counter pick in this meta, and I think the one change you'll see from this event to maybe the next major event, like a Calling, is you'll see Bravo become like maybe up in this area. I do think, because I think he just has some good legs into some of these top decks. But anyway, this was the main meta breakdown, and then as we get into top 8, this was the top 8 for the event, and the cut to top 8. So we have Brody Spurlock, Dallas native over here, taking names as he usually does on Azalea. So he went 7-0, and if you want to check out the stream, go watch. He played against Michael Hamilton, Icelander down here. Michael Hamilton's only loss actually was against Brody Spurlock, and it was a Azalea versus Icelander game. Really, really close, really good game, and it was really interesting in that game because for all you people who are aspiring Azalea players, Brody Spurlock did not run the quiver into Icelander. It's something I didn't even think about it until he mentioned it, but on stream afterwards he mentioned that he didn't run quiver on purpose because when you Azalea ability with quiver on the field, it will create a layer on the stack whether you want to or not. Like you have to choose to pay 1 to give an aim counter or not, and you have no choice but to force that layer in order to that interaction, and he didn't want to give Michael another chance to respond, another window, especially right before his Azalea ability, basically forcing Michael Hamilton to either give us disruption before or after he gives dominate. So that was a really interesting point that he made, but he won that one. Sam Dando on Uziri went 6-0-1. One draw, which was to Jesse. So as you see, number 2 and number 3, those two drawed against each other. It was Oldheim versus Uziri. Really, really close game. Both players like playing the best of their ability, and it was coming down to like single life. I think Sam was at 2 life and Jesse was at 1 life, and they went to time, which was really nutty. There was definitely some interesting plays in that game, but we'll get into that. Overall, Sam played as perfectly as you could. I still think that some people disagree with me, some people don't. I still think Oldheim's an extremely difficult matchup for Uzir. You have to play perfectly and hope to get a little lucky in order to win. But regardless, Sam played wonderfully. His list is very interesting. Pretty standard list, like nothing crazy spicy it seemed like in his list. He just knew exactly how to play it already. You can tell he had tested the deck for a while. Jesse play on Oldheim, pretty typical Oldheim list, nothing crazy, but Jesse played it really well. His only draw was to Sam. Naib, I didn't see their Lexi. They might have been on stream, but Lexi being 4th, Michael Hamilton, obviously doing Michael Hamilton things with Icelander. Levi Rauch, arguably the best Azalea player in the world, ended up going 6-1, beating a Dromai for his winning in on stream in the last round. That game was insane. Please go to DM Armada's stream and watch that round. If you're wanting to learn how to play Azalea and you're wanting to look at people's decisions on when and when not to do things, go watch that game. He played that game perfectly. I think if almost any other Azalea player is playing that game, they lose. But he made every decision perfectly during that game. I went back and watched it twice just to see I would pause and see what would I do in this situation and then watch what he did, and most of the time it was different. So I learned a lot that game. Really, really awesome. Number 7, obviously Dash, Aiden on Dash at 5-2, and then Joe on 5-2 on Briar. We saw Joe Robles take down Lee, who was on Uziri as well in one of the stream games. So pretty diverse. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different heroes in the top 8. The only duplicate being Azalea, 2 Azaleas. I personally think this top 8, especially the top Lexi, Icelander, Oldheim, and Azalea, I think that's who you're going to see in top 8 consistently. The craziest thing about this event was Dromai was the most represented deck at 15. Not one Dromai made top 8. If the Dromai would have beat, I forgot who it was, the individual's name, I apologize, but if they would have beat Levi that last round, you would have saw them in top 8, probably for the winning in, but because they lost, Levi was able to squeak in. Dromai's in a weird spot, and this is just coming from someone who's not a Dromai player. If you look at the meta, the top of the meta right now, in my opinion, and this is going to be the top of the meta, it's going to be Dromai, Azalea, Lexi, Oldheim, Icelander, and then you're going to see really skilled players play with Uziri, Briar. I think Bravo will be decent at one point, but really the top decks, in my opinion, are the decks that are most represented. I think these top 5 are going to be the 5 best decks: Dromai, Azalea, Lexi, Oldheim, Icelander. So Dromai and Oldheim, super grindy matchup, right? Some Dromai say it's Dromai favorite. Some Oldheim say it's Oldheim favorite, right? It all depends. But that's a super grindy matchup. And then the Lexi matchup, most of the Lexis I talk to say Dromai isn't too big of an issue because they can clear out dragons using Voltaire, especially if they get an endless arrow in hand. They just keep cycling it. And then the Azalea matchup, Dromai's thought was a lot easier, but it's turned out that the matchup's a lot closer than they think. It's definitely still Dromai favorite in my opinion, but both Azaleas on stream today beat Dromai. The first Azalea, quite frankly, high rolled to hell. No disrespect to the Azalea, they played amazing, but they played 3 straight Redna Ledgers, and I think they played a total of 5 times they played a Redna Ledger. It was that one was 15, one was dominated 14, crazy stuff. But regardless, Azalea can do that now. So the Dromai matchup's a lot easier than it used to be. And I think I think Dromai's just in a weird spot. They have a super grindy matchup against Oldheim. Icelander normally isn't too bad. Obviously, they win that. Depends what type of Dromai build it is, but typically they do pretty well against Icelander. Lexi and Azalea are both kind of difficult. So they don't have any easy matchups, in my opinion. They really don't. And then on top of that, they have to their only easy matchup, in my opinion, is Uziri right here. And so, and then they have decks like Katsu and Fi and Briar, which are very difficult because it's aggro, and it's harder for them to play against aggro. So, you see a top 8 here, every deck in this top 8, except for maybe Icelander, is not an easy matchup for Dromai. She might even be favored in 1 or 2 of them, but it's still not easy. Really, Uziri is the only one where Dromai's, gonna, I think, not have any issues with. Like, she should win almost every time. But other than that, I think Jeremiah's just in a weird spot where she doesn't have any landslide matchups. The only landslide matchup she has is Uziri. And then she also has a ton of grindy matchups. And over the course of like a 7-8 round day, that makes it hard. Like, Oldheim has really good matchups. Azalea has actually really good matchups. Lexi has really good matchups where it's not that hard of a match. Jeremiah really doesn't have a ton of those. And so it's going to be interesting to see how Jeremiah evolves. I do still think Jeremiah's a really good meta pick, but I don't think she's quite as good against some of the decks as people think she is, including myself. I thought she'd be a lot better. And this is just one event, so we'll have to see how it goes. But this is the top 8. So you'll see Brody Spurlock on Azalea play Joe on Briar. Uziri will be playing Dash. That'll be a really cool matchup. Oldheim will be against Azalea. So Levi's going to be against Jesse tomorrow. And then Lexi against Icelander, which would be kind of cool. That'll be a round 1 matchup, so I'm pretty sure, if they do it off straight seeding. But yeah, let me know what you think of this first event. Again, it's just one event, but it is the first major event we've had that kind of shows, what Outsiders is going to bring to the table. I personally think, again, these top 4 decks right here, top 5, I think those are the top 5 decks that are going to be in the format pretty consistently. I don't think there's any other reason not to think that. These are the top 5 decks I predicted were going to be good going into Outsiders. The only one I had added was Katsu. So, we'll have to see how it goes. So, yeah, let me know what you think. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to. If not, it's totally fine. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate you. Let me know what type of content you want to see in the future. We'll go over the top 8 results tomorrow on the channel, or, tomorrow at the time you're watching this on the channel. And I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.